What's up, Greg? How you doing?
Doing okay?
How are
Give me
those?
1 second. Go ahead.
What's that?
I'm just making sure everything's set.
Yeah. We just had a friend over earlier today, and he introduced us to a thing called Pan, Paan, and basically it's supposed to allow you to um what is it? Have your blood move a little bit.
He said it makes your blood pump,
Oh, it makes your blood
which gives
pump.
you a feel of
Basically,
energy.
it's like a stimulant. So I'm actually feeling that right now. It was pretty good.
I don't feel anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm pretty sure he gave more than you. But anyway, so it's I guess it comes from India, right? This
The
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 leaves
recipe, I guess.
the leaves in the it's an Indian recipe. It's called pan, Paan, and people use it as a stimulant for um their everyday lives. And it's funny because I just found that pretty interesting. That
And he was saying that his sister and his mom were taking it, and his mom lived till she was 107, and his sister's 89 right now.
pretty cool. I mean, don't the Chinese in some of the Asian countries don't they use a thing called what is it? Ginger? Not ginger.
Asian people use ginger a lot.
No, it's not ginger. It's a root. It's another one.
Ginger is a root.
Oh, it is. Yeah, but they use it in foods. But it's gosh, why am I blinking out right now?
I don't know what it is. I don't eat
It's also supposed to stimulate your body in that way. It allows you to pump more blood, gives you more energy.
ginger.
No, it's not ginger. It sounds like ginger. Anyway, it'll come back to me. But anyway, like
Are
before
you
we,
talking about this green spicy stuff?
that's wasabi, bro.
Yeah, that stuff. Is that what
No,
you're talking about?
no,
Huh?
no. Anyway, it'll come back later to me.
Okay.
But anyway, we were just talking about how. What were we talking about? we're talking
We were
about.
talking about the pine.
No, I mean I'm talking about like before we started the podcast.
We weren't talking about anything about except for setting it up.
Neuralink.
Oh, Neuralink, yeah.
And so anyway, how this relates, um, well, we basically are always trying to hack our brains and body, right? Don't you feel like you try to do that sometimes?
Trying to make it do things at specific times. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
But like the whole diet thing where it's like, oh, I've been on a diet for a week. Everything should be changed. So that's a hack.
But in terms of like our bodies, and we now are like we're we're experimenting with different drugs, stimulants, something that gives us like an edge. Caffeine. When you're tired, you hack your body by giving yourself caffeine.
I don't know if caffeine is the same thing because caffeine is in just like foods you eat.
But it's a stimulant.
Yeah, but that's like saying that a potato is a drug
No, no, no,
because it stimulates your body.
no. But
But caffeine is
it
within
actually
things that you would normally
but it
eat.
actually does something to you. It elevates your blood pressure,
But
and it gives you a high.
yeah, but there's a difference between that and taking something and
Potatoes don't give you a high.
making something to. It's the same thing with like poppy seeds. Eat thousands of poppy seeds, you're gonna get high.
Yeah, it's a stimulant.
But the amount of poppy seeds that you would eat, you're not gonna get high.
But that's the serving size is different between the poppy seeds and the caffeine. Like one shot of caffeine, and you're gonna feel stimulated.
I don't know. I've never felt stimulated from caffeine.
Okay, maybe you're going to McDonald's coffee.
I've, I've had the same stuff as you right next to you.
Oh, you mean
It's
what, like the
no, I just don't
Starbucks?
feel like the only thing that maybe I get out of it is the sense of like when you have usually when you have caffeine there's a lot of sugar involved usually.
No, 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 not
And
me.
you just feel bad from the sugar, I guess. The caffeine I've never Like I've drank like 24, or what are those big ones? Like 36 pack of Mountain Dew overnight. And the only thing I feel is when I wake up in the morning because I didn't brush my teeth, my mouth feels gross.
You had a
Like
36 pack of Mountain Dew.
I've done that before. Yeah.
What? Why would
Yeah.
you have a 36 pack of Mountain Dew?
It was a long. It was like when the first Call of Duties came out and they're giving out free stuff in Mountain Dew, and I like Mountain Dew anyway, so I just played
Jesus,
Call
man.
of Duty all night and drank Mountain Dew, and
Is that when you were doing gaming? When you were gaming?
yeah, and I didn't feel like it was keeping me up or anything. Still went to sleep like normal, and never had that.
Yeah. Man, I mean, I was even thinking about right now, like, I have some Diet Coke in the thing. And I usually have a Diet Coke every time we do the podcast or something.
It's caffeine free.
Diet Cokes are not caffeine free. I'm pretty sure they have more caffeine than actual Diet Cokes. Like 100%.
Oh, it's Pepsi that's caffeine.
I don't know. Diet Coke is supposed to be, it's supposed to have caffeine. Or even soda, just any soda. I think the ones that are rare are
caffeine content.
like the light ones.
46 ml.
That's like a coffee. That's like an espresso shot in that can.
I'm curious where the caffeine comes from.
Coffee.
No, the caffeine in the Coke.
Yeah, from coffee.
Put coffee grounds in Coke?
Not coffee grounds, but they put coffee.
So they extract.
That's why it's the dark color.
What?
What else is the dark color from?
Why would it be from coffee beans?
Because it's brown.
That doesn't mean anything.
No?
You've heard that they use coffee in Coke? I've never heard that before.
Okay, maybe.
I don't even know what Coke is.
Why don't you check? Why don't you fact check this, Greg?
What, Coke and coffee? Or coffee and Coke? Why don't I just find out where does the caffeine come from in Diet Coke? Most of the caffeine in soft drinks comes from factories in China. Naturally extracted caffeine is burned out from heated up coffee beans. Yeah, so they extract the caffeine. They don't use the coffee bean.
I didn't say they used the coffee bean. I said it.
Well, that's why you said it was brown.
What does it look like when you extract it? Clear?
Well, I don't know how they down to show an image. It may come out brown.
But it comes from the caffeine itself comes from coffee.
Okay.
Right. But
yeah,
anyway,
that's what it says.
The whole point is that we're always trying to hack our bodies. Have you done that this week at all?
Done what?
Just like try to hack something on your body. Like maybe you had a headache and you took a pill.
Yeah, I think I did that.
Would you consider that like hacking? Like, cause you're feeling pain and it's like
That sure, because it's not
right?
like something I can just go out and. I mean, you can go out and get it, but it's not something that is natural-ish. Like where you say, like, I'm gonna go eat rice because I'm hungry, or I'm gonna go eat chicken, or I'm gonna go have some pasta. Sure, you don't go to a pasta plant and pick up pasta, but you wouldn't consider it like food. It's something that was created for that specific purpose.
Yeah.
So that sure, but like, I wouldn't consider soda thing
as a stimulant.
No, as a hacked product to create.
Well, I'm sure there's a reaction from your body to the Coke. Maybe you don't feel it because we're so used to drinking them.
You know, as I started saying things, it started like clicking in my head that everything that I just said was pretty stupid. Because Coke is nowhere near natural, and it definitely was a bunch of parts of different things put together to make something. So, okay. Alright.
Damn.
So that makes you think about everything you do then, because It's just like how we used to probably think that horses were meant for travel. Like everyone rode a horse as transportation.
Right.
Then you had like bicycles, and now you have cars and trains and airplanes. Like
Weren't you just telling
you're
me
hacking
earlier?
everything to be something that
Faster, more efficient.
may not even be
More
something.
efficient, right?
Yeah.
And so you can be more efficient at doing something. Wait. So just before we move on any further about hacking stuff, because there's some stuff that's pretty interesting that just came out, which we'll be talking about a little later. But what was it that you told me when we were watching our friend's his the wedding that he was showing us? You were telling me that everything was the same, and you've had this thing. I don't know for how long. What was it that
Forever.
What was it that it clicked?
Oh, I don't know.
Because that's
I can't
what the
remember.
red. You took the red pill, right? Like,
I guess I don't remember. I just always remember thinking that everything has always been the same. It just looks different. It's like sports are still the same concept, but things are different. Like lacrosse.
like you're
It
talking.
used to be a form of war, and now we play it as a fun thing. Like it's
Okay, but what are you talking about? Like
that's
the
what
concept of like playing a game for fun. You mean that concept, a game, the concept of a game is the same amongst all the games
no. But what I'm saying,
because that is what a game is.
no, it's just like having a family. The concept is still younger and older. Older holds some power over the younger, and that's a family. Like you have your mom, your dad, and there's kids. And then you can have a grandpa, grandma. Like everyone's family is different, but all the aspects are still the same at some point. Like
Yeah,
there's no like shocking new family. Like even if there's two dads in the family, like
that's a shocking new family.
it's not something new, because for that child to have come, period, there would have had to been a mother and a father at some point. Sure, there's those babies that get implanted, yada yada yada. Still,
Hacking.
it's still at one point there had to have been a man, there had to have been a woman, regardless if they knew each other or not, any of that stuff.
But
So like,
what
there's
if they
nothing
never
new
had,
about
but
it.
what
It's
if they
just a
never
different
had sex?
circumstance. Huh?
What if they never had sex?
Babies
That's
don't
new.
just come out. Well, I guess there has been someone that just was born in an incubator.
Bro, have you heard about CRISPR?
But you still had to have both. Like there was still technically a mother and a father, just because it didn't grow in them. Just like surrogate moms, I still think that the mom who carried the baby is still the mom technically, even though it doesn't hold the eggs or anything. There had because the baby is eating the food that the surrogate mother is eating. There's a connection there. The baby only knows the surrogate mother.
Right.
So
But I mean,
everything is still the same. It's just different circumstances.
but what is everything that's the same? Like that's what I don't understand, and that's where I get lost in translation. But I found it interesting that you said that the wedding was the same as another wedding. It's just that it looks different.
I was
Which
talking
is-
about the dance because we were talking about dance. Like
Oh.
you're like, oh, they created the shuffle a long time ago. It's like, yeah, all dance has been the same. Like there's no like you can't move your body a new way.
It's a variation of the
Yeah.
old one,
Yeah.
but the dance itself is the same.
Yeah.
But what about the variations? Don't you think those make them different?
No, not really.
Like you would. What about Soldier
That's
Boy?
why we group things
Soldier
into
Boy,
groups.
Soldier Boy, and ballet. Would it be different?
No.
What?
I guarantee you, if you put a soldier boy in a ballet and you look through enough of it, you would see the same concept.
I don't think Soldier Boy looks anything like a ballet.
You don't think that when he does his fly thing in his Superman song, that he's standing on his tiptoes and like spreading out like
But the
like a
same?
swan? Come on, man. You can piece all that everything.
You mean Superman that hoe?
Yeah, dude.
Come on, dude.
I'm
But
telling you.
what was it though? Like I'm not.
Like, it's just because it's so, like, that's why I think that old people are so over everything, because they just realize everything is the same. Like, even if they don't necessarily realize it, they can feel it. It's just like they don't worry about things. Like, we've talked about this before.
Huh.
They don't worry about things the same way anymore because they realize the same thing.
You wake up,
Yeah.
shower,
It's
you
just
have
like
your routine.
almost every 20 years, you get a new adult generation who wants to do something crazy new. So you got your hippies, you got your whatever is nowadays, your hipsters. Like,
They get bored of the.
yeah, it's just a new generation in a different look, still doing the same thing the last generation did. And that's
That's how the cookie crumbles.
yeah. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I'm not as interested in a lot of stuff. It's because I'm just like, it's the same thing. Like, I'm not necessarily bored of it. It's just you don't want to keep doing the same thing, but you
But
got to do something.
But wouldn't you say that it would be different from, let's say, you work in an office, and then you choose a different. You're like, oh, you know what? This is not for me. Let me go and do vlogging. You start traveling, and now you're working out of an office, but still getting paid.
Uh-huh.
Would that be different?
I mean, it's still a different concept, but the stuff that you did in that office, you're probably gonna have to do for your vlogging. You gotta keep your logs. You gotta call people. You have to reach out to talk to people to have them
So
read your
a job.
information.
So the job itself, it's still a job. Is that what you're referring to? That's what I'm
No.
trying to figure out. Are you talking about just the concept itself being the same across variety of things like games? They're all the same. There's an end goal to all the games. There's rules to the games. Jobs, it's still a job. You have to be working to get money. You have to do this for this. You have a boss. Blah 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 blah. They're all the same in that aspect. But games and jobs are different. Like,
Sure.
which one are you talking about being the same?
This is like this, okay? You have singers, right? You got Eminem, Ariana Grande.
Okay,
They're both singing, right?
sure.
They do a different style of singing, but they still need to know. I'm not into music, but they still need to know the core concepts of music, why people listen to certain things, and the repetitiveness of things that draw you to songs.
Right.
So at the base level of it, it's the same thing with different variation.
Okay. But you're talking
life
about that
is that-
one.
But
thing.
life is still the same way. Just like, that's why you hear all these artists like get sued because their song sounded like this person's song, but that person never got famous. So like, how are you sure that it's them copying your song, or it's just them creating something because there's not enough variation out there to really create all these new things?
I have heard about that. I forget what it's called, but basically, there will be. I mean, the amount of people and the amount of endless possibilities of thinking that people may think maybe of the same idea in opposite sides of the world exist because of the amount of people that are living at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a higher chance of that happening. I'm sure that happens a lot. But my question to you was like, are you talking about the same concept and then it being the same thing within the variations, or concept and concept?
I mean, kind of both.
So what I want to know about the concept and concept, like,
it's like movies.
Singing and powerlifting are two different things.
Like movies, there's no new concepts.
Oh, movies, it's
What? Why is that any different?
Because the same writers write them.
No, it's
Most
been
of
years
them.
now. A lot of the older writers are dead.
Okay, so like what?
Why are a lot of songs that are getting really popular now songs that have already been created with something new thrown in, like that new song that came out, the Old Town Road thing that everyone's into. It's a old song added some new stuff in, just like
No, I get
like
that.
every big
I
artist
understand that.
is
But
done.
what about singing and powerlifting?
Well, those are two completely different things.
That's what I'm trying to
But
figure out.
powerlifting is not changing. Powerlifting is the
But
same
hang
thing,
on,
and then they
I'm
throw
not
in new
talking about
rules and things
powerlifting.
like that.
I'm talking about life. Like, this is the thing. I think I realized what you're talking about. You're talking about the same concept with different variations, and they're endless. And no matter what people in that concept, whatever they're talking about, whatever new they're doing, it's still the same because it comes from a variation from an older song, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But what about
It's like
what
when
about
we age.
singing and then swimming? Two different things.
Yeah, because those have nothing to do with each other.
That's what I'm trying to figure
But
out.
it's like when we
But is
age.
it the same?
If you and I knew each other, and like we've known each other long enough to where if we never saw each other for another 30 years, we came back, we're all old and wrinkly, like we'll see each other and be like, look, it's Marco. It's kind of the same thing. It's like if you don't see these dance moves for so long, you're gonna see it and be like, oh, that was that.
No, I understand that. I understand that everything's the same within that concept, regardless of time. But what about this concept of singing, or this concept of driving, and the concept of meditation? They're two completely different things.
Yeah.
And you're saying that all of life is the same. I don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay.
So if
it's like
if it's everything's the same, why is there driving? And
there
why
are only
is there
so many. There are only so many base things to where from that you can get different variations, but it's still that base thing. And there's not enough. There's not been new created things from that base. It's like communication.
Okay. We changed the way we communicate.
Yes, but communication is still communication.
Right.
So me talking to you here, or me talking to you over a FaceTime, didn't change communication.
Right. Well, it changed communication. It just made it more effective.
It's still the communication though. Like just because I look at this screen instead of looking at your actual face, I'm still looking at your actual face just through the screen.
Right. I understand that. But what about communication and telecommunication?
Still the same thing.
Or, okay, that's a bad example. Or how about
it's a different way of doing the same thing.
Communication and exercise.
What about it?
They're two different things.
Sure.
Yeah.
But running is running. Picking something
up.
up
But I'm
is picking
not
something up.
arguing that. I get that part. Trust me, I get that part. I'm trying to figure out, because you're saying life is the same.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out what is about it is the same. Have you done singing? Have you driven a car at 120 miles an hour? Have you jumped out of an airplane? All those things do not correlate. They're all different things. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if you think that everything's the same because maybe you haven't done something new in a while.
But it's like how you said, jumping out of a plane. Sure, it's different than running. But is jumping out of a plane and jumping out of a helicopter two different things?
No.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like that.
But what
where
about
someone
other
will
things?
take. Well, someone will take like jumping out of an airplane. People do it all the time. But then this one person is groundbreaking and so fantastic because they were the first ones to jump out of a helicopter. Oh goodness!
It's new.
It's the same thing though.
Okay,
that's my point. Like people are getting praise for stupid things that is just the same thing that looks different.
Okay, what about the guy who jumped out from the edge of space?
Okay.
What about that guy and the guy?
That's different because no one knew if he was gonna live or die. Like
so, it's different.
Things, sure, it's different, but it's still the same thing.
Yeah, but wouldn't you praise that guy and be like, "Damn, I could never do that."
I would never do that because I don't want to
die.
die.
The balls to jump out of the edge of
space. Is that balls? It's just like back in history. Actually, no. Well, this specific circumstance I heard from Game of Thrones, where everyone thought that this guy, or was it Game of Thrones? I think it was. Someone thought that this guy was the greatest warrior of all time. He rushed into battle on his own in ridiculous odds, and everyone was like, he's gonna die, and he rushed in, and he was the reason why that side had won. And so one of his fans, whatever you would call him, told him that story, and he was like, I don't even remember doing that, I was so drunk. Like, did he have balls, or was he just stupid? It's like, I was stupid. Like, he's not a hero because he did that.
But that's just
he was
that
just so
instance.
dumb that something happened and passively.
But that's
like,
just that instance. What about like this back in the day when samurais needed to fight?
Okay, and
What
there were
if-
lots of them.
Yeah. But what
So
about
they weren't
those people?
special. Like,
Can you be a samurai?
no. Well, I mean, I could, but do I?
I mean,
Do
could
I
you?
do it? No.
Could you?
Could I? Sure.
Do you have the
If I got
dexterity?
trained.
Well, I mean, everybody, obviously, but I'm talking about like you don't even think going to space is cool,
I mean, sure, it's cool.
but you give like you're like you're just an astronaut, like whatever. You're the same guy. You're the same thing as a guy who drives a bus.
Sure.
Like that's how you think
It's
about
still
them?
a person, yeah.
I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking about what they're doing, and is it special? Like him
Sure,
going
there's cool things, sure.
Yeah. So in that scenario, it's not the same.
The scenarios aren't the same, no. But, like, one's not better than the other necessarily.
That's not what I'm trying to say, but wouldn't you like give more props to the guy who went to space?
For what?
Going to space.
But did that guy drive a bus?
No?
So
So
he
no?
can.
you
He's
would be
licensed to drive a spaceship, but the other guy's licensed to drive a bus. So is the bus driver better than the astronaut because he can drive a bus? Like, it's just like, sure, there's less astronauts, cool, but it's
But do you
A lot
see
of
what
things
I'm
are the
saying,
same,
Rick? But do you
like-
see, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're saying, and I only brought this up because you brought it up earlier, and it just stayed in my mind, and it's something we can talk about right now. You brought up the fact that that life is the same, no matter what. And I'm just trying to figure out what it is that you mean by that. Is it like you're a concept and you look at it and it's all the same and it becomes uninteresting to you, and then maybe you find another concept and then it's like you think it's the same and then it's like whatever, and then you need to move on to another thing? Or like I just don't understand what
it's
you mean.
ways that we, like, 100 years ago, the things that we find normal, we just walk down the street and see all the time.
Yeah.
If someone from 100 years ago walked down the street, they would be freaking out.
Shit their pants.
Yeah.
Right.
So, why is it that we don't see these things anymore as, like, oh my goodness, like, this is the greatest thing ever? We're just like, whatever. Like, you see the bridge. We're looking at the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, like the 7 wonders of
Like,
the world.
we
Or the
don't
8 wonders.
we look at it and we're like, oh, okay, that's cool, but like when you're standing by it, like I've seen it plenty of times. You stand by it now, and it's just kind of like, we've seen this in every single Hollywood movie. Like, the cool long bridge. The people who drive over that every day probably hate the bridge. Like, but that thing's impressive.
Right.
And like, things happen in like real time and they're impressive, but then they're just not impressive anymore.
Like we get used to them and we have to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, but it's consistently still the same thing over and over. Like, we find something that we haven't seen and it's so great, and then we see it all the time and it's just whatever now. There's no long-term appreciation for anything, which makes everything.
What about psychedelics?
What about it?
I think the biggest argument to what you're saying is psychedelics, because they're not all the same. Like the trips are not the same.
You can make something bigger and better, sure. So like, the first bridges weren't this giant and amazing.
I'm not talking about bridges. I'm talking psychedelics themselves. Like, I have minimal I don't even have any experience with psychedelics, I guess. But like from what I hear, they're different. Like one will cause you to do this, to feel this way, to feel compassionate for people, to love, and then another one will make you feel like you're gonna die,
Hmm?
and then you get two different lessons from them.
Do you get lessons?
I think there's lessons in them, yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. See,
But
what
no,
if you're
but
like,
that's like saying.
what if you take a gram of whatever of, I don't know, ayahuasca or mushrooms or something, and then you're like, whoa, I have never seen this before.
But see, now what you're saying is you're saying about lessons. So like, can't you get the same lessons from say a teacher?
Can you? Are they teaching them?
I don't know. It depends on the lesson. But like that's my point. Like how we would always read these books in school about like I don't know. There's some stupid book like the red where the red fern grows. Did you read that book?
No, I'm Mexican.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah,
Okay, there's a bunch of lessons in that book. Okay,
yeah.
but did you actually read the book? I didn't.
I wouldn't say I read it, but I skimmed through it.
Did you watch the whole movie?
Probably not.
We watched it in class.
I don't remember that.
You never watched in class? So that's my point. Like, I don't think majority of the kids, at least in my class, I don't think the majority of them read that book. Some of them may have read 50%, did the cliff notes, took the test, passed. I don't think they all read it. You'd always have those like 3 kids in the class that read it, and everyone would ask them questions. So, but then you would watch the whole movie. So wouldn't you get more information from the whole movie than from the book? Even though the movie is made from the book, and they're one and the same.
I don't think so because visual learning and like the movie would be 2 things: you're hearing and visual learning, and people have a tendency to misinterpret things. When as you're reading it, maybe you can like misinterpret it, but maybe not to the highest, and maybe not to the same degree as to hearing something like a word that completely changes the
Sure.
sentence.
But it comes down to being the same. Like sure, there's
Like
parts
what?
of the book that are left out in a movie. Yada yada yada.
I mean, I don't know. I
but,
guess
like,
you just have to explain it in a better way because I'm not understanding what you mean. You say life is the same, in every way, but are the ways different?
everyone has different experiences in different times, but life doesn't have anything new. Like new things aren't appearing.
What about, yeah, they are mutations.
Mutations of what?
Mutations of genes, mutations of
Do you think that
like birds
let's say
mutate.
like there's things that we haven't necessarily like people haven't been able to do like go to space. So
That was
people when I don't know. Let's just say I don't know when the first
I think
space landing
19
was.
what?
First space landing. Before that, no one was able to do it.
1969.
So
Hang on, I don't know.
all those
let me,
people couldn't experience that because they hadn't done that.
right.
So it's not something that couldn't have been done. It just wasn't done yet.
Yeah, 1969.
So it's
July
not that
16.
it's not that that experience couldn't have happened. It's just none of those people had done it. It's like you can't be everywhere in the world, but that the world still is existing. So nothing's changing. It's just new things are happening.
But
So like
isn't
let's
that in
say
itself
like everyone's
change?
talking about aliens,
But
right?
hang on.
So say the aliens were around just as long as we were. Just because we didn't see them or experience them doesn't mean that it hasn't always been happening. So just because it's a new experience doesn't mean it's a new thing.
What about life itself?
What about it?
Wasn't that a new thing?
Mm,
Because before
Maybe.
life, what was there?
obviously, no one has that answer.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm wondering. Like,
But
What
the way
about
that everyone kind of agrees with it outside of something was created,
it was a new thing that
if it
happened?
then life has always technically existed in some form.
It's a
This
new.
kind of life, as in human life, sure was a new thing, but there was life before that.
Was
Like
there?
if you're saying that all
Volcanoes?
these things came together in Big Bang, yada yada yada, there was still life before that. That's why things came together
What
in
was
Big
life?
Bang. Life is anything like molecule, like there's those little like you seen those little like alien things that live on you?
What?
They're so creepy to look at.
You talking about water elephants?
Yes,
Or water bears?
the water bears.
Yeah.
That's life.
They
Those have been
exist in a
around before
vacuum,
us,
right?
apparently. Yeah.
Okay.
So like,
No, I
sure,
get,
there are different ways that things
that,
are happening,
but
but it's still
I
all the
just-
same.
I just don't understand what it is that you're referring to. If it's the concepts or like what are you like pinpointed?
You can't
It's-
because you have to explain it differently per thing.
But that's what I'm saying. So
Because things change,
that's
so
what
there
I'm
are
saying.
differences.
Change. When you're saying change, it means that it went from being something to being something new.
Kind of.
That's what change means,
It's just
right? So
what?
you can't like I don't know, there's
You
this
change your
famous-
clothes, but you're still wearing clothes.
What if I take off my clothes?
You change a rule, but there's still
But what if I take
rules,
off the
like-
clothes? Like now you have no clothes.
Okay,
It's different.
then you didn't change clothes.
It's different, right?
In a sense, yes, but
But that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to get to. Like that, it's in itself. Like that is a different thing. It's no longer the same thing you looking at.
like this whole
Like genes and being under a microscope. If you can even do that, I don't even know if you can do that. But when you look at a gene and then it's got a mutation, that mutation is a new thing that wasn't there before. So in a sense, that is new, and you can't say that that is the same from the other thing, because that's why it's called a mutation, because it's new. You see what I mean?
but it's
So that's
still,
my counter argument to everything being the same.
but it still goes along. It's still doing the same
But
thing,
you're
just a
putting
different
it,
way.
but you're putting it in a paradigm of this thing being the same, when in fact it's not the same as it was. It's a new thing. And so you have to switch your paradigm from looking at it this way to like, oh, if there's another angle to this.
Sure.
So that's what I'm talking
I'm
about.
not saying that there's not different ways, but everything is still basically the same thing. It's like
Like a gene and an atom is not the same. Or a cell and a plant cell is not the same.
sure, but they still consist. Like
What about
if you got rid
metals?
of
What about metals and atoms and electrons and neutrons? That is different from a gene and a cell. You see what I mean? So
Sure.
in a sense, it's not the same.
there are different things, but when it comes down to just there will always be the basic.
What is the basics between the cell and an atom?
Well, I can't tell you that because I don't know enough about it.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, what is the same about them?
I can't, like I just said, I can't tell you because I don't know enough
So
about
you
that.
don't know it. So could it be that there is differences, like I'm saying?
Well, there are differences. I've never said there aren't differences. But
how
the
is it the
base
same?
of almost everything
But how
seems
could you
similar.
say that? That's what I'm saying.
Because
How
if you
could
look
say
back
that?
through history, like they say, don't repeat history. History always repeats itself.
But now you're talking about something different. I'm talking
But no,
about
it's still that concept applies to almost everything.
almost everything
Yeah,
is not
pretty-
everything.
Fine, everything.
You're saying that applies to everything.
Yeah, you don't like. Let's use examples with transportation.
But
If you go and you
you're
used to
talking
run
of-
as transportation.
I understand that, great, but I'm not talking about. You can't put transportation with singing.
No,
or
but my point is that
transportation in
you're
kickboxing.
still going to have hazards. You can still run into people. You can still run into a tree because you turn around and talk to someone. Like they're
Yes, they
like
have common things, but doesn't mean that they're the same thing. Like you're saying it's the same. And I'm just trying to get to that bottom of it. What is the same?
what's not the
It's
same?
uh, a plant and a wall is not the same.
How did the wall come?
We
Trees, right?
built it. No, we built it out of mud.
You have mud on your walls.
Well, not this one, but like a mud block wall.
Uh huh.
It's different from a tree.
Okay, but see now
So
what
it's
you're
not the
talking
same.
about is the difference between material items. So saying that I'm not the same as you, obviously we're not the same thing, but we're still pretty much the same thing
How?
because we're both human. We both
But
pee.
us,
We
okay.
both
You're
poo. Like,
comparing
but that's
me
my
and
point.
the thing.
There's trees. Sure, there's a difference between whatever kind of wood they use on your framing than a redwood. Sure, there are differences, but there's still a tree.
I'm not talking about trees and trees. I'm talking about a wall and a tree.
What about it? They
You're
just look
saying
different.
life
It's still
is
the
the
same
same.
thing.
How?
It's a tree, isn't it?
In a wall?
Sure, technically.
How is a wall and a tree the same?
If you're talking about the inside, the wood that you use to build the wall.
Okay, let's say that you're in a commercial building and now it's steel.
Okay,
How is that wall compared to the same to a tree?
they're different things.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
But
What
that's my
in
point. There
life-
are different things, but at the base level, everything is still the same.
How? I want you to tell me how.
Because there is a base level.
What is the base
Let's
level?
say the tree is the
between
base
tree?
level. The tree is the base level,
No, no,
okay?
I'm
So
not-
now anything that's made of wood came from a tree. So it's the same
understand
thing,
that.
just has
What
a
if-
different look. You're using them differently.
I'm not arguing that. I'm telling you, you keep arguing the fact
You want
that
a base level. So let's say
concept.
there's thing that we don't understand. Let's call it slob. Slob was the first thing that ever happened, and that's your base level. Everything is slob.
you're
It's
saying
essentially
slob,
kind of what it is.
slob is the same as a rock.
It came from slob at some point, yes.
I don't understand that. I don't know where that's going. How is slob the same thing as a rock?
It's just like everything in this laptop, right? Everything that has to do with this laptop
But I don't want you to
existed at some
explain to
point. Existed at some point. It
Did
just
it?
was put together to become a laptop.
What about pharmaceutical drugs?
They all had something that was out there previously to where those people
Was there?
300 years ago who didn't have this pharmaceutical
was there?
drug was out there.
Was there?
Yes.
How?
You think that there's some alien thing we don't know about now
Yeah.
that we're using in Advil?
Yeah? Do you know what's in an Advil?
No, I don't, but I
Okay,
also
we'll
don't look
check.
up things.
We'll check before you say that. Because that's a very definitive thing to say.
So then, what do you mean? So you're saying that something showed up out of blue air and just
anomalies.
came?
They're called anomalies. Anomalies.
What are you talking
That's
about?
an anomaly.
What is?
That's something that wasn't supposed to be there, that's never been there, showed up.
Well, it's like having seedless watermelon. Sure, seedless watermelon was a thing to where you extracted certain things to have it grow with no seeds in it. But like
Okay.
it had to come from the watermelon. So you can change the baseline, but the baseline is
understand
still
that.
there.
I understand that, Greg. But you keep saying life is the same in every way. And I'm trying to figure out if you're talking about the concepts being the same, because that is a concept. Like the concept will never be different. No matter how much you want to try to bend it. It's still a concept and it's different. But there's millions of concepts. And so which one of the two are you referring to? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Just like putting a filter on something. There's filters on everything of light. And there's a baseline of what that filter is covering.
You have to do a better job at explaining.
So if you use a Snapchat filter, You're putting that over your face. It's a very simple way to explain it. You're putting it over your face. Regardless what that Snapchat filter turns you into, a lion or a cat or a bear, you're still the thing that
Okay. What if you put
starts
it
that
on your
image.
dog?
Then it's a different variation
What?
of the baseline, which was your face.
You're saying that the dog that is not related to humans is the same as humans.
No. See, now you're nitpicking the little thing that I'm trying to explain.
What is that?
I'm saying the baseline is your face, regardless of what you turned your face into. The baseline was your face. There is a baseline in life,
okay, which
and
is
everything is a filter over it. So you take steel and you turn it into a building, or you take steel and you turn it into little needles.
So you're talking.
So there is a
about
baseline
concepts.
of everything.
Yes, but you're talking about
that
the
then
concept
changes
itself.
to become something new or different.
But you're talking
in a
about the
sense.
concept itself as being the same over and over and over.
Sure.
Hey, that's fine. All you had to do is say that you're talking about one concept being the same thing over and over and over. Or there's different concepts, there's different things going on in the world that make up the world. It's not just one thing. See what I mean?
Yes. But there's a baseline. And from that baseline
So
comes other
explain
things.
to me what that baseline is.
I can't explain you a baseline because we haven't discovered what a baseline for a specific thing is.
So you're saying something that you don't even know about.
No, because you can get, there can, say in 100 years, there can be a tree that doesn't exist right now. But it had to have come from the trees that existed now.
But I understand that, Greg. You're talking about trees and about the same trees coming up from old trees. That is how trees are made. But what about trees and then buildings are different? And then trees and water is different.
Yes, but
and then water had to come from different atoms.
See, that's what I'm saying. You're taking. You're saying that a tree is not a building, obviously.
That's
but
what
to
I'm
create the building, you need the tree. So you want to have a building without the tree. So the tree is a baseline at that point. Okay, so then you have concrete. So concrete would be whatever concrete is.
So it's different
so
from
the baseline would be the concrete, not a tree, obviously.
That's what I'm trying to figure
out. So there's
a
baseline for everything that is out there.
Okay, so you're talking about a concept being, I'm telling you, like, listen to what I'm saying. You're talking about one concept. Let's say communication is the same thing throughout all the years, no matter what happens in the future. Telepathy, communication, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. I get that. But wouldn't you agree that in life there's different things?
There's different variations, yeah.
So communication and running is not the same thing. Communication and skydiving is not the same thing. No. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
But there's a baseline for those things.
Why are you bored of these things? Have you just not experienced enough? Is what I'm trying to figure out. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but when we praise things for being this brand new thing,
yes,
where it's literally the same thing, they just change a color or change, like, it's like the whole argument between like Android and Apple. How like Apple comes out with this brand new thing, it's like, no, that's been around. You just are adding it in now because you didn't have it before, and you're saying this is a brand new thing.
But isn't that the definition of a brand new thing?
No, because it existed before already.
Did you know it existed?
Yes, because Android had it. Like, I'm using it as an example, not a
what about when we discovered gold, and then it was like the start of the Industrial Revolution?
So you don't think the gold was already there previous to the discovery? Sure. That's my point.
What if we never figured it out?
Baselines.
What if we never saw it?
Well, then we wouldn't have anything
past
the baseline. We wouldn't
even know the concept of it.
But there would be nothing past the baseline. Is my point. Do you get that now?
No.
Like, the gold would still exist if we don't have it. It's still there.
Do animals know there's gold?
No, I would assume.
That's what I'm saying.
But see, it still exists. So if we introduce gold to them, and then they started understanding what gold was, it's not new. It existed already. Just because you didn't know doesn't mean it didn't exist and it wasn't happening.
Yeah, I understand that, but you like from at the very beginning, how is that? How does that correlate to the being the same? It must have been a difference. Like two things had to come together that were different. You know what I mean?
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
to create something new,
Yeah.
to have a different look. Like,
Would it be a different look? Like we don't know what that looks like. Can you
so
put that in a
if
model?
you took gold and silver and fused them together, it would technically be considered something else. But it's still gold and silver.
You're losing me, man. I don't understand what you mean by life being boring and everything's the same. Like I just don't understand that.
Well,
If
it's
it's
like a
life
new
is
dance
boring
move.
and different, and then next thing tomorrow you're like, oh, I discovered coding, and now you're all excited about it.
But it existed already. Just because it's new to me doesn't mean it's new. Doesn't mean it didn't exist before. Doesn't
So
mean that it's
scientific discoveries to me, that is what it's like. Our interpretation that it's new, it's just a thing that we invented to say, hey, look, this is what I found. It's
kind
a
of what it
new
is.
thing. We have never discovered it before. Like, what's something that we had never discovered before? A new atom. We discovered a new atom. It's a new atom, and actually, they made it in a lab. That's an actual new thing that never existed before.
Yeah, and they had to have created it in some sense from things that had existed. That's my point. Like, things will look different and have new functionalities, but it came from something at the start.
But that
Like,
is
things don't change enough in our lifetimes to be like something
technology is
ridiculous.
technology is ridiculous.
We're creating new things, but as they get created,
Oh, so okay, so
like something new comes out, like cell phones didn't exist when we were kids. But, like, can you remember the transition between like
yes,
not having a cell phone and a cell phone? Like,
do.
it's not. But does it
It
affect
blew my
anything?
mind.
I didn't think anything.
Yeah, because you're privileged, bro.
What does that mean? You probably had a cell phone before I did.
I did not. You were privileged to live here. I didn't know what a telephone was.
I didn't have a cell phone until after I met you.
Did you know what a telephone was growing up as a child?
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was. I got here and there were telephones. I was like, "What the?"
Yeah. So
fuck
that's
is
my
that?
point, though. It already existed before. So it's not that it's something new. It's just something you didn't know before.
Hence, it's new. I'm not saying it just came out of the brand. It just came out of the air.
But no, that's what I'm saying though, is that the majority of stuff we see, it's essentially recycled, just recycled whatever it is.
That is how humans learn. That is the process of life.
But that's my point, is everything is just recycled. So once you start seeing all this recycled, you're just not excited about it anymore. Like, it's just like, why is the world so ridiculous over this?
You just look at the world in a different way than people. Like some people don't even have the capacity to say that. Like you give them a phone, you give a 100-year-old person a phone that has never come out of a cave. You're like, look, he doesn't have the capacity to understand that phone. He's like, what? Like, I was just starting to paint drawings on the cave, and you guys are sending emojis on your phone?
Yeah.
That's new to
But
him.
then my 3-year-old kid who can barely speak can function on a phone better than my parents.
Well, you passed that information down.
No, I handed it to him.
But you also passed that.
Ow.
Your genes, your genetics, your DNA.
I don't know about that.
That is exactly what you do. Like, you know that if you wanted to.
You think that there's something there that made him understand it that we don't understand yet?
Yes. And that's why he's going to figure it out. If he's the chosen one. Or somebody else is going to figure it out. Or someone else is going to make a new discovery.
So then, like, with that, That kind of
Knowledge is
takes me.
passed down.
That kind of takes me to Star Trek. Do you know anything about Star Trek? About the Vulcans? How they don't have emotion and they're just very smart and they don't age. It's like as we continue to grow as a human race over time, that eventually, like, you'll be born not necessarily smarter, but you'll be born in a way to where you can learn faster. So by the age of 10, you would have the same knowledge as someone who's 50 years old.
Yeah, you're
nowadays.
adapting. You're evolving.
So you think that that's something that is happening over time, based off like how the whole gene concept
I feel
is?
like that is why I am on the fence. Like, I understand what religion is, and I get it. I grew up religious, but now I'm thinking like maybe it's not the way people taught it. Maybe there is a thing or a person or a god or a spirit or the universe at work, whatever that is, the greater good, whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a thing. We just haven't, like, religion and stuff like that is just an interpretation of that.
Yeah. So, like how I was just saying about eventually down the line, not necessarily that something would have taught that something to then take to the next. Like
Not
my
really.
my kid's smarter because of all the things that previous ancestors had, and then his kids are going to be smarter because of the previous ancestors, and so on and so forth.
Okay, let
So
me
it's
put it
still,
this way.
my point is that came from the baseline. Whoever was the first person would have passed all this knowledge to the next one, to the
Yeah,
next
that's
one.
why it's recycled.
So, but it's still the same thing. So it's still the same recycle of
That is.
same thing over and over and over.
In
and
that
over.
sense, yes.
And that's my point. So now
But in
you
that
see
baseline, there's
you
different
see a
things.
baseline
But there's
for
different
something
things.
specific in that sense.
Yes.
So that same concept applies to everything else.
Yes.
Like the tree concept that I was saying,
Yeah.
or the sand concept. I was.
But there's different baselines.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
But
I
there's
meant.
not enough baselines to where new things are just happening
Well, we
consistently.
haven't discovered
where
them.
Ariana Grande creates this new type of music that never existed before. Like it's not a. It's just a different
It's
type
an
of
interpretation,
music.
right?
Yes.
It's a variation. Yes.
And I just see too much of that.
Yeah, and
It's
so
not
back to that
something
point.
new. It's just kind of.
And back to that point, like at the beginning of that baseline, there is that baseline. You're correct, but there's different baselines,
Yeah.
and that's what I meant. Like you're talking about this baseline from here, from the beginning to now, but then I get that. I'm with you. But what about the difference between that baseline and another baseline? That means that there's a paradox, that there's always going to be something new as we discover things. It's new. They may exist. Maybe this baseline has not been created yet. You see what I mean?
I see what you're saying, but it's still.
Are you going to say
It's
all
still-
baselines are baselines? Because you can say that about everything.
That's the point. Because
But
that
there's
is
no
everything.
Point there's no point in that, though. That's just like
But see, it's not about
it's an
having
empty.
a point.
No, I get.
It's
I
about
understand.
that's what it is. Like you were listening to a podcast the other day where the guy was like, everything that you hear about everything is pretty much wrong, because science doesn't care about how you want it to work. It works a specific way regardless what you want or not.
Right.
And that's my point. Like these things will only work specific ways. Just because we haven't figured out those specific ways doesn't mean that they can't work. So the baseline is what is created, for lack of another word, created different variations of itself.
Right.
Like if you believe Adam and Eve,
I understand. We don't have
so
to
there's
go
a
over this.
baseline,
I
and everything
understand.
is from a baseline.
And if you don't believe in Adam and Eve, the
And-
baseline is evolution.
The baseline would be from something else before that. But let's just say the first
Chicken and the
people.
egg, right? That's
First
the
people.
question. Chicken and the egg. What came first?
Well, no, I'm just saying, so we can have a baseline agreement at that moment. Adam and Eve were the first people, so they were what everyone came from. Obviously,
theory.
they couldn't look like me, and they couldn't look like you because we don't look the same.
No, we're
So we're a different variation
right.
of what they were.
Right.
Do you agree with me then?
I am agreeing with you in the concept wise, but when you take the baseline of Adam and Eve and the baseline of a wolf and then a baseline of something else, there's differences in those baselines, and I wasn't understanding. What are you talking about? You're talking about just humans? You're talking about just wolves? You're talking about just trees? But what about humans, trees, and wolves? They're all different things. But if you go all the way to the beginning, okay, that's what I'm saying. What about a rock? So
it falls into another thing.
That's what I'm saying. So
eventually down the road somewhere, I think that there is a one single baseline that everything happened from. Which
the Big Bang.
Could be that, or it could be what people consider God.
So, okay, I see what you mean. So, the theory of infinity. There's an infinity amount of times this moment has happened, an infinity amount of parallel universes, for the infinity amount of time, and infinity, whatever that means.
Yeah, so
and there's absolutely no end to that.
So, like, if you think about that concept, the whole infinity thing, we could be two rocks right now. And rocks are what we think of as humans. And humans are rocks. So, like, it didn't change anything. Except for the appearance of what is perceived at the time. Like how you see a movie and like those like time traveling ones where like the alternate universe everyone's a pig, but there's still a Marco who's a pig and there's still a Greg who's a pig, but they're still living the same exact life, doing the same exact thing. Like it's still.
I think we've exhausted this point way too much. I think people are gonna hate us this episode. But anyway, the point was we were hacking. We're trying to hack our bodies, right? This new thing came out 2 days ago from Elon Musk called Neuralink. And so basically, like his argument is that in order for us to keep up with AI and what AI is gonna be, whatever it's gonna be, or whatever is gonna come in the future regarding AI, we need a faster way to compute. Like our brain needs to be able to give input and receive input and create output at a faster rate. So he's creating this chip, right? That's gonna go in your head with thousands of not microscopic, but thousands of like really, really small threads. And that those threads are gonna be stimulating your what are they called? Neurons? That's your neuron. And then they're gonna be able to calculate whatever that information of that neuron is. So they're going to be able to read what your brain is doing, your brain activity is, and then it's going to give people with the same, like, let's say that you're the first person, right? And you're kind of like the beta of this thing. The information that they receive from your brain, other people who have, let's say they lost touch, or they lost the ability to move your arm. From the information of someone who can move their arm, they're gonna be able to stimulate your brain in such a way that it's gonna allow you to move your arm now. Does that make sense?
So let me go over information from everyone to do more than the majority of people can do. So it's like how Usain Bolt can run super fast, but no one else can. So his brain stimulation will teach us how to do it.
Perhaps.
Obviously, you have to have physical
Perhaps.
strength, yada yada yada. But
Yeah,
something
so
where someone can understand a complicated, like Einstein can understand all this stuff that other people can understand. So now
I don't
we
know
can
if
connect
it's like
into that and start to
I
understand
don't
it.
know if it's like that here. So first of all, they're aiming for human trials as early as next year. Okay.
Dude.
Okay. I know, and this is why I brought it up because I want to talk to you about this. It may be able to help with neurological disorders such as like Parkinson's. Let's see, dystonia, whatever that means, OCD, epilepsy, depression, chronic pain, uh, tightness. I'm not sure what that is. Improve cognitive function in your brain power. It's they're also going to be able to rehabilitate people with no motor functions from your neurons, like your neurological body. They're going to be able to help you move your limbs now. And then in another way, they're also going to allow, or they speculate that there's no ceiling to this, that it can do, like they don't know what it can do basically. And one of the other things that they're speculating is is that blind people are going to be able to see now by input into your brain by this chip, receiving information from other people wearing like chips.
I ain't gonna get
Okay.
one.
So input output is bandwidth. We talked about the neurological disorders, and what is it? So it's going to be a chip implant, smaller diameter than the width of a hair. It's 1,000 threads will be placed in by a robot. So it's going to be going in your brain, and then it's going to be picking threads, barely missing blood vessels, putting them next to neurons to be able to receive and input information on there faster. They're aiming to get you in and out with only a few hours. It's not going to be like a surgical procedure. Nope. It's going to be like 3 hours. Now you've become superhuman, I guess.
This sounds like some end time stuff. Dude.
Okay, so actually, I wanted to talk to you about this stuff. That's why I brought it up. Now, could it be, or could it be that the book already, like the people from back in the day, already knew what this technology was gonna do, and then maybe they saw a glimpse of the future and be like, you know what, this and this is gonna happen. This and this is gonna be the way it happens. Or what in the fuck is this, Greg?
The issue with the concept of you saying like how I would say everything's the same. So like someone may have discovered this kind of a concept a long time ago and wrote about it. But like how we said, those things didn't exist yet. Like electricity didn't exist. So how would they come up with this concept of a chip?
Aliens. Area 51. That's why we're gonna go storm it.
So then you would think that this stuff already existed.
We don't know.
So we're not gonna
know until we find out.
Yeah. I don't know. Based off of things that I do know, this sounds a lot like a chip and the Antichrist and all that kind of stuff.
Explain that.
So
what does that mean?
I was just thinking about this, and if you have a chip in your head, it could just be like a computer, in a sense of you can make things appear a certain way. So like you play a video game and something vanishes.
It says that it's gonna allow you to control your cursor, type. It's gonna allow you to type. It's gonna allow you to play as an avatar.
So
avatar, bro.
God is going to be taking all the people to heaven. People will vanish. How else can people vanish? They'll make you not be able to see them anymore.
So what is God? Is it the life, the universe that we know? or is it this computer program, or is it both?
No, the
Or is
computer
it-
program would be part of the
Or
Antichrist.
is this the way that God comes back? Oh fuck!
Dude, I was
And
listening
if you're
to
a bad person, you can't get into the portal because you're a criminal.
But think about this though.
What?
Like,
Oh
but
shit!
think about it at the same time too, because
What
like
is
how
the
we were
answer,
saying,
right?
how we were saying that, or I guess I was saying that everything exists already. So those concepts would have happened. Like if you believe in God, God knows everything what is, can, and will be, right? So technically, to him, it's already either happened or it's happening. Like I don't know how to explain that. To him, if he's experienced all of it, then it's already happened.
What if it's a her?
So it's a thing, whatever it is.
What if it's a trans, bro?
Well,
That's
if
why
you think,
trans are coming back now.
but see, it's not him, her, or trans, because it's something that we can't put something to. That's why we call it God.
Right.
But at the same time, can it be God because we don't understand it, but it understands itself?
Does it understand itself?
Who knows?
But anyway, like, what do you think about this?
We gotta go to
thing,
Area
dude?
51. We gotta get some answers.
So we're gonna take Steve here. We're gonna go. You want to do it? You want to do a podcast?
I want to go, but
From
I don't
over
know if I can. It's on the 27th, right?
20th of September.
Oh, it's in September. Oh, that's far away then. I thought it was July.
No, September 20th.
Sounds fun. We'll see.
What if? I mean, dude, what if they just drop a nuke and they're like, oh, all right, half of California lost its freaking people.
Do you think that they couldn't move that stuff overnight or get it out of there?
I don't even think it's there anymore.
Please, if it was,
It's probably at the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
If it
That's
is,
why they were down there.
and was, they had a plan to get that stuff gone. They had a plan to hide. Like, if they've been hiding this stuff so well for so long that people kind of are just talking about it, and there's little skeptical videos, but you don't have enough information to be like, yeah, this is real. Like, they've been on this hiding game way too long.
Well, yeah, that's
You
the
ain't
whole
gonna find
argument.
it.
That's an argument.
Someone's got to
But
give
hang on,
all the proof and be like, here it is.
No.
And then there's nothing you can do
But
about
hang
it.
on, let me tell you what happens. In the 1980s, when Bob Lazar was working at Area 51, they had discredited them. There's no Area 51. There's nothing. Everybody was like, oh, it's a military base. That's what they used to say. It was not an official thing until like 2010, when the CIA came out and said on the Freedom of Information Act, they have to put it on an archive. People have access to this. They had to put down on it Area 51 secret location. So it made it official. But this whole time, these guys were discrediting a person. It was official. There was a thing.
But why were they discrediting?
Aliens.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it's aliens. Maybe
What
they
does
were
it mean?
trying to protect a secret location. It's just like police officers who are undercover. Not that they're aliens. They're just trying to protect undercover
But
agents.
wouldn't you
So they were
say?
trying to keep
But wouldn't you say?
their process or whatever they're doing. Say they were trying to develop a new weapon there that they didn't want people to know about.
He
Like,
says that they developed atomic bombs there.
yeah, so you don't want people to just know where you're developing atomic bombs.
For aliens.
Or aliens, sure. But that's my point though. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like that. It could be they were just trying to have
So
a
are we
secret
gonna storm
facility.
this shit or what?
I'm not gonna storm. I'll go and see what's going on.
Leroy Jenkins.
But there's gonna be that place is just gonna breed crazy people. Like, sure, there are some people who want to go legitimately to see what's going on, but the majority of them are gonna
Honestly,
be
I think
crazy
it's just
people.
an excuse to go to Vegas. Like everyone's like,
Kind of, yeah. If they planned it for so far
let's
away,
let's just go to the desert, bro. Let's just go to the desert.
yeah, it's probably some rich guy who was like, "Let's put this together. We're gonna make a bunch of money," and they're putting up a bunch of shops. They're selling. The town is preparing right now. All those people are gonna make much money. They probably build some kind of something out there. The government's probably gonna profit off of it too. Like it's a win-win for
Taxes.
everyone. There's nothing there. It's just another way to get money.
Publicity.
Another way to get whatever
Marketing.
they're trying
Well,
to
it
get.
was a joke. Started as a joke.
Yeah.
Then
But
now
did it start as a joke? Or was this a plan? Like
It's just a joke.
See, we're going conspiracy into
somebody
conspiracy
got
into
high and
conspiracy.
watched Joe Rogan with Bob Lazar, and next thing you know,
yeah, you take anything that is popular and big and you turn it into something. So if like this kid yodels in a Walmart, let's take that and blow it up into something huge and make this kid a millionaire all of a sudden and put him at Coachella a couple months later. Like not
Well,
that
yeah,
big
dude.
of a thing. It's like
he
there's
is
tons of kids yodeling in Walmart.
Yeah, but he is that kind of big deal, I guess.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like if you like this video we're looking at right now, I'm assuming that's New York. There's a bunch of tall buildings. Which building there pops out to you? None of them. They just
Well,
kind
they're
of
all
blend into
different
each other.
sizes.
I don't know, but like that's the point.
But they
Like,
blend in because they're all
they're-
the same color.
But they're probably rated. This one's the best one. This was designed better. Like you look at it. Dang.
Yeah, dude, that is literally a concrete jungle. I did not realize how much concrete is in New York. Is that crazy?
I'm curious if there's. Well, yeah,
And
there'd be more concrete. I was
the
gonna say,
only
is there
thing
more
that keeps
steel than
people
concrete?
alive- The only thing that keeps people alive is the Grand Central Park.
Keeps people alive. Oh, you mean the air?
Yeah, dude. Or else it'd be
Please,
like
they
China.
They pump in air from somewhere else.
It would be like China.
I
You
well,
see that?
yeah, but they're those kind of places though. That's not like factories and stuff. Like China, like where you see those places have factories. They also don't have the same rules that we do. So you got a lot more.
We're starting
crazy
to
ass
get
gas
it here
and-
in California, dude, where mainly the beach cities, there's not a lot of green.
You talking
we
about
live in
like
a
in
valley.
the water, or oh, you're just talking about like trees and things
Yeah.
like that? Yeah,
We're like limited.
yeah,
I mean,
but
we have our places like California is mostly trees and green, but
they don't
right?
don't they say there's enough trees out there anyways to be fine? It's just we have like smog and things like
I don't
that,
know.
which is
But I mean, if we're gonna plug into the matrix, I don't think it matters.
well, it does matter. It's
Does it?
just because you're plugging into something doesn't mean that your body doesn't still need to be
Yes, but what about
kept.
let's say that 1 hour here in the real world is 1,000,000 hours in the matrix.
But see,
And
that's
you're
the
not
same.
gonna be able to perceive that.
But it's like the same thing you've ever played. I don't think you really have played any video games that have a in-game clock. Like some MMOs have a in-game clock to where it's still a 24-hour clock, but a 24-hour clock may be 5 hours. This isn't. We don't perceive the
We're not gonna
difference
be
in the
able to perceive-
in the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be. It's like
Like I'm not like, oh,
There's an
I just
argument-
lived 3 days in this video game. I should probably go to bed now. Wait, what? It's only been 3 hours?
maybe you won't know that.
But your body will still.
No, it won't. It could
I
be
don't know.
day for millions of years in the game.
Well, then if you think about that, then creation can exist, which means that that chip that someone else is putting in us was the same thing as what our brain is right now.
The chip, it's just a better one.
Is it
It's
a better
an
one?
upgraded. It's an.
Is it a
upgraded
better one, or
brain.
just someone else manipulating what someone else created in the first place?
What's a better version? Same thing, but it's a better version.
I don't really understand. That stuff is crazy, dude.
I don't know. I think we went off the deep end. People are not even gonna click this video.
No, probably not. But it
It
doesn't
shouldn't
matter.
even be called plug-in. It should be called freaking unplug, bro.
It was probably that pun.
Yeah. Anyway,
All right. Well,
we're gonna
that was
call
a
it a
fun
night.
conversation.
we're gonna call it a night. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you guys next week.
Guys, have a good one.